Hi, I want to tell you about the largest and most complete compilation of Colorado weed law on the internet. Hi, I'm Barry Smith. I go by Legal Bear on the internet. Sometime about 1990, I heard the creator speak to me and he said, get a computer, learn how to use it, and start studying law full time. So I obeyed the call and estimate that I spent like 10 years studying law, like 40 hours a week. I ended up with 7 big boxes full of photocopies that I made going in and out of the library. I got really skilled at doing legal research there. I ended up going into a private law library with somebody skilled in video production with a professional camera, and we made a video on how to use the law library. And then, sometime about 1997, I attended a continuing legal education class on how to do legal research on the internet. And I think it was about 1998 that I started doing all of my legal research on the internet. I also made a legal research video on how to do legal research on the internet. And so then one of my law buddies, he says, hey, when he learned where I was in Colorado, he says, you're just down the road from one of my friends who moved to Colorado because she wanted to get involved in the marijuana. And she's a graduate of law school, and so I gave her a call, and turned out that we kind of hit it off. And when she learned that I had a friend that wanted to cash flow some rundown properties, she was like, well, you know what we can do? We can rent those to growers because they need a place to grow their medical marijuana. So she ran an ad on Craigslist. Some people started calling in, were interested in those properties. And that resulted in us meeting someone who wanted to participate in what he called the green rush. You know, he was thinking of it kind of like a gold rush. He had a similar idea. He wanted to be involved in renting out those same properties. And he had the dollar signs in his eyes. You know, he was thinking, hey, boy, I'm going to get a cut of that. And once again, advertising on Craigslist, that brought some people to town that were looking for a place to grow medical marijuana. We went to eat, and while we were at the restaurant, there was the property owner that was looking to rent the properties, an investor, and there was a grower, a guy who had a medical card and he wanted to grow his plants someplace. Well, he sat there at the table and told us all about, hey, you know what? You can make concentrate, but not with butane. It's against the law to make concentrate with butane. And he had this aura of authority to him. It sounded like he knew what he was talking about, and we all listened to him. And then I got to doing the research on that when I put this package together that I'm talking about here, and come to find out that that went to Colorado Appellate Court. They said, hey, can somebody with a medical marijuana card make concentrate? And the court came back and said, no, that's manufacturing. Manufacturing is reserved to the licensed dispensaries. So that would be a medical marijuana dispensary or a recreational marijuana dispensary. He could not make that. So that guy did not know what he was talking about. And none of us did, until I researched it, we didn't know either. Now, there's another thought. Sitting at that same dinner table was a pot investor. You know what? In Colorado, you're not going to be a pot investor. After I did this legal research, I learned you can't be a pot investor unless you go through a background check. And also, there's other requirements. In other words, the state is going to check out anybody that wants to be a investor in the marijuana business industry, and they're only going to allow those that don't appear to be involved in organized crime. How about that? So if you're going to be an investor in pot in Colorado, you better know the law, because you might be breaking it just by investing. And most certainly, if you don't conform with the law, the state of Colorado is not going to provide any help. You can't go to the court and say, hey, they stole from me, they didn't keep the agreement. You can't get any kind of remedy because you broke the law yourself. So then I learned that same guy had traded pot for a smartphone. The guy that was telling us about it's legal to make concentrate, just not with butane. Anyway, he traded pot for a smartphone. I'm a member of a Facebook group where all the participants have their medical marijuana cards and they're growing medical marijuana themselves. And on that group, frequently they'll offer to trade pot for a car or whatever it is they need. They offer to do a trade, and they think that they're circumventing the law and they're doing it right there in public. And as I did this research, I came to find out that there is actually a statute that forbids that. In Colorado, bartering pot equals selling pot. It doesn't matter if you're a medical marijuana user or if you're a recreational user, either one, you can't sell pot legally. And that includes you can't barter it. So then found out that while I was doing this research, that property owners need to know Colorado marijuana law too. Found in the annotations that there was somebody that owned like a strip mall or some type of they had a tenant that was paying them. It was a dispensary. So they went to federal court seeking bankruptcy protection, and the court came back and said, we can't do it. And the reason is because if the trustee ends up having to manage the assets, for example, the shopping center where the dispensary is, he'll be breaking federal law. And of course, on the surface at least, nobody wants to break federal law. So there's another thought too, as far as why it's hard to find places to grow, because as people become knowledgeable, they don't want to participate because they know it's going to possibly cost them in things like not being able to file for a bankruptcy. As I was doing the research, I came to a case where at another shopping center type place, a strip mall, the city and a dispensary were battling out over zoning. The city said, no, you can't be in there. And the dispensary saying back, yeah, we can, and we're suing you to prove it. So then the court issued its ruling, and it said, neither one of you parties have acknowledged or even briefed out the issue that this statute over here controls where dispensaries can be. So there was two people. There was property. There was the city that didn't know, and there's the dispensary that didn't know, and that there was a statute that dealt with that. Why should you say, well, we're going to put a dispensary here or there, because in not knowing the law, you pick out a place that it can't be done. If you know the law, then that prevents you from doing that. I heard another story about a dispensary that was 3 feet too close to a school. So they could not have the dispensary at the location that they had picked out because it was 3 feet too close to the school. So if you know the law, it'll save you these kind of inefficiencies and possibly expenses as well. I mean, if you have a location picked out and you started doing work on it, remodeling or whatever it was, and then you find out we can't even have it here because it's 3 feet too close to the school. So it seems like it makes sense to know the law in advance. Now, who needs this Colorado weed law legal research package? Anyone either involved in or considering involvement in medical marijuana growers and users, caregivers, physicians, retail and medical marijuana dispensaries, investors, law enforcement. And, some of this stuff like swapping the cell phone for the weed, participating in a Facebook group and doing trades frequently and stuff like that, that's being done right under the nose of law enforcement. It's quite possible that they don't even know that you broke the law. Black market. Doesn't it make sense that if you're going to grow medical marijuana and you're going to sell it in Wyoming or some other state or something across state lines, that you want to know everything you can about the law that you're fixing to break? I mean, what happens if you come in contact with a law enforcement officer and you tell him, without realizing it, that you're breaking the law? If he knows the law better than you get charges out of that. Attorneys need this. Laboratories need this. Colorado's got, in their statutes, they got provisions for marijuana laboratories to be testing, the efficacy of the different kinds of pot and whether or not it has different kinds of chemicals on it and stuff. And then also The transporters. Anybody who wants to transport pot. If you were a recreational or a medical marijuana user, you have a really small amount that you could carry around with you. And if they find in your car a large amount of marijuana, you're getting charges because it's not legal to transport around large quantities of pot in Colorado. You have to be either a caregiver, and you'd have to pull out their medical marijuana cards for everybody you're providing the care for. You'd have to show, look, I'm taking this, to somebody that I'm the caregiver for. Or the other one, you'd have to go to the state and get a license to transport pot. So say, for example, if somebody had two outlets, two dispensaries, and they need to move some pot from one dispensary to the other, then they'd have to have a license to load that all up and move it from one location to the other. Okay, so here are some other services that I'm offering. Daily email updates on Colorado pot law developments. You need to know on an ongoing basis what's happening, especially between the states and the feds, since Sessions is in there. He's not in favor of pot at all, and so he's pushing to get the funding and stuff to oppose it in the states. And if that happens, you need to know quickly, because if the feds are coming to spoil the party here in Colorado, you need to know. And then I'm offering to do research for your particular pot project within Colorado law. So in other words, instead of going through this entire package looking for what pertains to your project, whether you want to be a caregiver or a recreational dispensary or any other aspect, the transporter. There's also a thing called auxiliary grows, where you're actually growing off-site for a dispensary. So any of those things, I'm capable of researching out what all applies to whatever it is you want to do. And also legal research on other states' pot laws. I think over the last 26 years of working with the law, 27 years of working with the law, I've worked in probably something like 30 states. So I'm really skilled at, looking up other states' laws. So as I was compiling this information, I also made a list of 118 things that you'll learn from this Colorado pot law research package. So and as accompanying this video is a PDF. If you look for the link, you'll see it there, of those 118 things. Accompanying this video also is a way to order the research package and any other services. See the description with this video.